Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. So, with the no contact order, like I was saying, that's something that's dealt with and handled by the criminal court system. So, in the event that the arrest or the criminal charges are dismissed or they end up not filing formal charges, then that no contact order is going to go away with that too. So now there is nothing protecting you. If you have the injunction in civil court or the restraining order, that's going to protect you for a longer amount of time. And it's a totally separate court system that deals with that. One of the things that people ask me a lot of times is, does it come up in background checks if there's a restraining order in place or a domestic violence injunction in place? It depends on what kind of system is being used, but the answer should be to assume, yes, it's going to show up. And that's one reason why it might be important to get the restraining order so that it shows up in someone's background. It might also be a reason to try to really defend something if it's not true, especially because you don't want to agree to an injunction or have an injunction entered against you if it's not even true. And now this is showing up on your record and could possibly affect your future and things that you're doing in your life. So that should be assumed that yes, it could be seen. The other thing is it's really easy to just jump onto the clerk of court website, type in someone's name, and it might show. Some jurisdictions keep them confidential and sealed, and others don't. So it might be that you can literally go in and type in John Doe's name to see what kind of cases does he have, and you might see that there is this restraining order in place, or that there was one in the past. So with the restraining order, I want to talk about some of the consequences that happens, which is separate and apart from the no contact order in criminal court. If somebody has a restraining order injunction in place and they violate that, let's say because a restraining order and injunction is meant to protect from either direct or indirect contact. Meaning, if I have a restraining order against me, I'm the person that cannot make contact, indirect or direct. That means I can't go to that person's house. I can't pick up the phone and call them. I also can't send text messages or Instagram messages. You cannot have any form of communication directly or indirectly. So that means I can't tell my friend, hey, can you go to so-and-so and pass along this message? Any form of contact, direct or indirect, is prohibited. So let's say that person is violating the terms and they do make contact in some way. The consequence for that action for violating could be that you're now arrested for violation of an injunction. So it's not the initial original arrest for domestic violence. Now it's an arrest for violation of the injunction. And that is considered, at least in my jurisdiction, a first-degree misdemeanor that carries a sentence of up to 1 year in jail. So there are some severe consequences that could take place for violating the injunction, which is another reason to consider getting an injunction. Someone has another question. Is there any difference in the way police will handle it if the violence was committed by a minor, 15 years old? Will they just send them back home? Well, I can't speak for how got my Starbucks. I can't speak for how different jurisdictions and police departments will handle their arrests. But if there are allegations or there's violence by a minor, let's say someone who's 15, they have the ability to possibly hold them in a detention facility. So then that child would end up being in dependency court, where they see like a juvenile judge for dependency actions. That may not be something that a family lawyer handles. It's a different area of law, dependency court versus family court. But certainly there are situations when even minors are conducting themselves in such a way that might be domestic violence. So again, police should be called let the authorities handle it. And there needs to be documentation for the minors. Like I said, if there's going to be an arrest, they may end up going to a detention facility. If there's actually going to be an arrest, the way that the police would handle that, that's up to them. As far as the procedure, so what needs to happen if you are the victim and let's say police came, they made an arrest, and there's going to be a no contact order in criminal court, but you want to go that extra step, which I suggest, and get that restraining order in place. What you need to do is file a petition. And that's something that you can file on your own. You don't have to use a lawyer, or you can hire a lawyer. Something that I handle is a lot of times it's not a divorce, it's not a paternity matter, it's someone's coming in to get help with domestic violence, and that's something we can file for them. But you can certainly go to your nearest courthouse and ask them for the packet or the forms to do it yourself if you need to do it yourself. There are no filing fees with domestic violence. They want to make it, something that everyone can afford. It shouldn't be that they can't file it because they don't have the funds for it. So there's no filing fee. And you can either, like I said, use an attorney or do it on your own. What the process is from there is, let's say you finish filling out your documentation, or the lawyer finishes doing the petition for you, the drafting of it. You're going to file it with the court. You'll have a case number assigned, a judge assigned, and usually, at least again in my jurisdiction, within 24 hours, if it's done on a business day, a judge is going to look at that document. Now, the court is looking at just that document and whatever you may attach to it. Police reports can be attached to it. Photographs can be attached to it. So the court is looking at just that document that you filed with any attachments. And the court has to decide if based on that document, alone, if the court should enter a temporary restraining order or not. If the court is going to enter temporary or not, either way, you're going to be getting an order from the court. Should be within about 24, no more than 48 hours. So that order that you're going to get back will notify you that there's going to be what we call a return hearing. So now you have to go into court on the scheduled day and time that's in that order, and you have to appear before the judge. You're going to know from that document, is there a temporary restraining order in place or is there not? But either way, there's going to be a court date that you have to attend. The reason that you're attending that court date is because the court needs to then decide, am I going to extend the restraining order if I gave a temporary, or am I going to enter a restraining order at all if there wasn't a temporary given? So that does mean you need to show up to court. You need to be able to testify, present your evidence. The court is actually going to be hearing from you, hearing from your witnesses, seeing photographs, videos. It's like a little mini hearing where you have to present the case, and the judge needs to decide, should there be a restraining order entered or should the temporary be extended, and if so, for how long? Now, obviously, the respondent or the person being accused has the chance to, they need to come in, they get served with a copy of the documents from the court, and they would show up to the hearing as well. And they have an opportunity to be heard. They have an opportunity to try to defend the situation and say, this didn't happen, or there were no witnesses, or she's making it up, or he's making it up, or however that's going to go. But it's like a little mini trial between the petitioner, the alleged victim, and the respondent, the alleged perpetrator, we'll call him, or the aggressor in that situation. There's another question. If I have a restraining order against my ex, but he still contacts me online, can I contact the authorities? Or in this case, would I need a no contact order? So no, if you have a restraining order in place already, you don't need a no contact order. What you need is to contact the authorities, because now there's already, there's violations going on. Contacting you online is a violation of that restraining order. So every jurisdiction has a different procedure for how you would document or put on notice if there is a violation. In Palm Beach County, for example, you can either contact the police or go to the clerk or the courthouse and do what's called an affidavit. And you would fill out this form that says there's a violation, and then the judge would look into that and you'd have to have it set for a hearing. I don't particularly suggest that way. I don't particularly like that way of dealing with it. I think the best course of action is if there's a violation, you contact the police, see if they can make an arrest based on the violation, or if they can at least do an investigation. If you're not getting anywhere with that, then what you could do is do the clerk of court form where you're filling out that there was a violation and have that set for a hearing so the court can hear about the violation. So we kind of went through like a crash course in how to handle if you're the victim of domestic violence. Obviously contacting the authorities, documenting it, what the difference is between the criminal aspect and then the civil aspect, the difference between a no contact order in criminal court and then the injunction or restraining order in civil court, the procedure, having it filed, getting your order from the court with a decision, and then being called into court for the return hearing to put on your case, basically. And like I said, the respondent or the defendant or perpetrator, they have the right to be present and put on their case too and defend that if they want to or they need to. Another really quick tip or couple of tips is take photographs. If there's any evidence of physical injuries, damage to property, damage to your car, anything like that, damage to like holes in the walls or acts of any kind of violence or anger, you could take videos of that, take pictures of that. That's all your evidence right there that I strongly recommend you keep track of. And obviously, if you are finding yourself in a situation that you don't know how to get out of, the best thing is to go to an attorney, talk to an attorney, try to get some help, or go to like a woman in distress type of situation or a place that can help and be supportive to your circumstances and help you try to figure out the best way to get out of that domestic violence environment. So I hope that this was helpful. We did a really quick crash course on domestic violence today, you guys. It was so good to see all of you. Thank you for coming. If you have any other questions about this topic, you can email me directly, Taryn@sinatralegal.com. Thanks.